All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for After the Rain, episode 9. All right.
Going to the festival.
We're going to be at a festival, yes.
Tachibana and Haruka.
And we could even get Kondo-san to come here.
Because, I mean, as well. He was posting a lot of flyers for the festival.
It's very important to him, at least on some
Indeed.
level. So maybe this was something where he was just trying to be a good manager and promote, workplace, kind of thing. But I think he's going to end up showing up there. And we could have an episode at a festival. Where it could be fireworks.
I mean, if Tachibana hadn't already confessed multiple times, I would say this would be an ample time for a confession. But that's already happened. So.
Yeah, but we're also getting good character, probably stuff with Haruka and Tachibana. I'm really hoping for them to kind of spend time together and kind of have a little bit of a relationship talk with regards to outside of track. Interactions and stuff like that.
Maybe the subject of Kondo will come up and she'll be like, oh, that explains why you seemed so distant and preoccupied with other things lately.
Possible. Yeah.
But,
So it could be interesting. So y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. Oh, cool. So you can see this all over again.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so pretty. They're so pretty. Oh. Oh. It's so warm.
Hopefully it doesn't rain. Or maybe that would be perfect.
Suki nandesu. Of all the openings we watched and things like that, the thing that I love about this one is that it's truly nonsensical at certain parts. There's the
opening certainly is.
The opening, I mean. That's what I said, okay. Yeah. So yet there's all these other there's other parts where you end up getting something that's just so happy, and I'd say a perfect kind of little imagery of how chaotic and wondrous love is.
One might say that this is very witty.
Yeah. Nice one. Yes. They did? Oh yeah, that's right. I thought they meant that they saw him when they were with Kondo. Yeah. I was like, I don't think so. Simultaneously.
その代わり500円。は？ほら、行くぞ。調子いいんだから。
Oh, memories.
今日はありがとう。誘ってくれて。
Oh, it's the bubbles. That's love. Oh.
大会の予選、結局誰も参加できなかったよ。たまには部活に。
Oh crap. He's here.
Acquired.
She can see him from that far away.
Yep.
I saw him too.
Yeah.
Whoa.
ごめん、バイト先の店長。
And you're that excited to see your manager?
Yeah.
今の人のこと好きなの？
Yeah, you do.
嘘でしょ？超おじさんじゃん。アキラ、最近何も話してくれないよね。
Yeah.
はるかだって 聞いてこないじゃん。聞けるわけないじゃん。
Yep, because we haven't. Yep. They don't spend time with each other anymore.
聞いてこないとか、声かけるなって、何も聞くなって、アキラがそういう空気出してるんじゃん。
This is good. Stuff needs to be said. Oh! I love how one looks at the other like, oh, is this the time to cry?
もう元には戻れない。
Oh, that was what I was afraid of. Oh.
あるか?
Well, there was a confession made, but not the kind of confession we were hoping for. Oh, the book. Yeah. Oh, we're gonna meet the author. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Here we go. Oh.
なんでこの店なんだよ。
すいません。
Oh.
ビール一本。
He's an old friend.
と、つまみは先に頼んどいたぜ。
え
？10年ぶりくらいか？
Okay, so what was their past?
Yeah, why now?
Past like, yeah.
まあ、お前のこと思い出すきっかけがあってな。
お前は興味ないかもしんねえけど、俺のファンにも若い子がいるんだよ。
確かにまあまあ面白かった。
読んだんか？
なんだよ。
わざわざ買って？
いや。図書館で借りた。
He's like, oh, this hurts me.
Cuts deep.
Yes.
面白かった？
まあまあだってば。
なんだよ、まあまあってお前。超絶面白いだろ。ではアメゾンで星一つつけたのね。
Okay, this is amazing. What is this? What is this relationship? What is this? What is this?
大学の時作った俺たちの同人誌。
懐かしい。
Oh.
よくまだ持ってたな。
ああ、みどりちゃん。お前離婚して何年目？今でも会ったりすんの？
Okay.
会ってねえよ。
お前は俺とのインド旅行ぶっちって結婚。
Oh,
俺は向こうで孤
dang.
独。
Oh. Wow.
Whoa.
So, oh dang.
Oh my gosh.
That's totally different than what I thought.
Yeah,
it was.
yeah. I had like completely different ideas about everything involving the book and stuff.
So does he maybe feel like he wasted some of his youth?
今も書いてんだろ？
え？いや、もう全然。
嘘だろ？
まあ、時々。
All right, you know, a little. This is great. Oh,
Oh, he's talking so quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, we can tell, buddy. We can tell.
俺がこそこそ小説書いてるなんて知ってる人間もいないしな。
What's with this surprise premise twist in the show? Like, this is so cool.
人にペラペラ話すことでもないだろ。それに話したくなったら俺に話せばいいだろう。
Okay, I love this guy. I love this guy. You can tell he's got his own quirks and flaws and stuff, but yeah. Like these two were close back in the day. Like they were close.
酔いざましに歩くわ。
何？乗ろうぜって。
歩く。
乗る。
歩く。
They're definitely good friends. Oh, this is wonderful.
もう歩けない。
だからタクシー乗れって言っただろ。
He's gonna be like,
書いてんだろ。
またかよ。それ聞くの18回目だぞ。
正しくは15回目。
どっちでもいいわ。
who cares? This dialogue is so good. Oh, convenient river.
なんちゃって。
Yeah, he's drunk. Yeah, this is amazing.
ポスマトリーチ。その水がどこにあろうとも、またその水が清くとも、あるいはよどみたるものでも、皆同様に月を映す。
It's lighter.
I was gonna say.
元気もね。
So stubborn.
あ、そういやな千尋。お前の小説 ヒロインの女子高生の描写がいまいちだな。
Oh?
何？おめえに JK の何がわかるんだよ。そうかよ。
Whatever.
運転手さん、車出してください。はいよ。
ああ、すねちゃって大人げねえの。
俺たちは大人じゃねえよ。同級生だろ。またいつでも連絡よこせ。
Oh,
じゃあな。
that's so bad. That was so good.
Yeah.
What was that?
Not at
Chance
all what I
encounter?
expected.
Yeah.
まだまだ飲むぞ。今度お前まだ原稿手書きかよ。
うるせえ。いつだって帰りたい。青く飛んだあの季節。
Yep.
分かち合った胸の
Oh,
高鳴り。
wow. His novel was called Nostalgia, and he says not just for nostalgia. You
Right,
know?
right.
オーダー入りまーす。追加でポテトと唐揚げ。
はい。
なんだか今日元気ないように見えるけど。
友達と喧嘩しちゃって。
Mm.
ずっと一緒に部活やってたんですけど、
Mm.
もう仲直りできないかもしれません。
Lies! You can!
Yeah.
You
俺
can!
も
すみません、戻ります。
うん。立花さん。ちょっと。
What?
満月。
そう。
Okay, just a full
し
minute.
かも今夜はスーパームーン。
Ah, okay, there we go.
Okay.
スーパームーン。
通常の満月より大きく輝いて見えるんだよ。願い事も叶えてくれるっていうジンクスもあるらしい。
Oh.
願い事。
学生の時同じサークルで仲がいい
Cool,
や
cool.
つが
Yes, 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 yes.
特別喧嘩したわけでもないんだけど、なんとなく気まずくなって疎遠になっちゃったんだ。 こないだ会った。楽しかった。 そう思えたのは自分たちが大人になったからだと思うんだけど、俺たちは大人じゃない。同級生だってね。
That's so good.
Yeah.
何が言いたいかっていうとね、たとえ今立花さんとその友達が離れてしまっているとしても、きっと一緒に過ごしたかけがえのない時間があったと思う。
すれ違う思いに今は不安を感じていても、いつかまた満ちる日が来るよ。この満月に願いをかけて。
Awesome. Awesome.
Awesome.
Cool. Cool. That was pretty surprising how separate Kondo and Tachibana's stories were this episode.
Right?
Like, they were both great. You know, just,
of
like-
me. What a good thing we lose. What a bad thing we knew. Wow. What a good thing we lose. What a bad thing we knew. Da 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 da. Oh, this episode.
All right.
I'm really glad that this episode focused on the whole thing of the friends growing apart and coming back together, but also having the reality of
that they
just
are growing apart.
their lives going in separate directions be a thing here, because the issue with Haruka and Tachibana is that the hurt is still there.
Oh yeah,
the hurt hasn't been reconciled.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways Haruka needs to request instead of kind of cry out at the pain of the situation. What, of course, they're not mature enough to understand is that, you know, communicating your feelings is something that's very natural, and it's something that if you're just honest about the feelings rather than making you statements about how you screwed up,
sure,
instead of making that, you say things as I feel, right. I feel, then you can actually have some really good, you know, good communication here,
right? Because there's no disagreeing with that, you know?
Right? And also that specifically it shows the vulnerability of the person and being willing to, you know, talk about this. And while Haruka is right in that Tachibana is kind of the instigation of this, by framing it in that way, she's also pushing away any responsibility she has with regards to the situation. And this is something that I'd say is all too real, and I'd say characterized very well for 16, 17-year-olds. I think they're 17. Yeah. It's something that hurts, because I think all of us can think back on times where we mishandled a friendship.
Sure.
Or not necessarily mishandled it, but let a friendship slip away. Like an opportunity for a deeper connection that maybe if we had taken more initiative or taken more responsibility for our part in the relationship, it could have been better. And we don't know. We don't really know, because, you know,
who knows what would have happened.
So, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, you mentioned the plots being so separate.
Yeah, they were very separate, but and not what I expected. Because the fact that they focused on Tachibana and Haruka for the portion of the festival, that was great. Like, because the stuff that they did there was really good, and the way they resolved it, even though things aren't completely resolved, was fantastic. And the fact that, like, Kondo was there, but it was just like they didn't even show the interaction. It was just, you know, her going up and saying hi, and then that was it. It's like, okay, wow. Because what I feel like it does is it shows that these people have lives outside of each other, which is very important for any kind of romance, because then it's basically saying that they don't just exist for each other.
Right.
They have other things that's happening and stuff. That way, when they get together, it's something that feels earned rather than just, you know, the fate of the story, because that's how it has to go. And then, of course, that also made it so that when, at the end, when Kondo is, you know, asks her how she's doing and everything, it was absolutely fantastic, and it it was great. And Tachibana, her response, even though it was like internal, right, when she was wishing to the supermoon, it wasn't about anything regarding Kondo, even though they're both right there. And in another series, I would not like, or even in this series, I would not be surprised at all if they ended up bringing up the topic of, like, hey, you know, like if Tachibana wished, like, if her and Haruka's relationship getting patched up maybe wasn't the number one thing on her mind or something, I don't know, but they didn't do that, right? And that goes, it went to show more of the them being friends aspect that was gone over in I think the episode before the previous one. Which is great. And then there was the whole thing with Kondo meeting up with a friend, and the writer of the book not being his ex, but
so I love the new character. Chihiro, I believe.
I think so.
His character, I absolutely love him. I love this quirky author, like, weirdo.
He's great.
It's amazing character. The dialogue that they had together showed their history. It didn't tell us about it. They had little moments where they remarked on things that we couldn't have known about.
Like the whole thing of him getting married instead of them both going on the trip to India.
Yeah, that was probably the most exposity thing that they said in the entire exchange, but it was something that actually needed to be said, because we didn't know why they fell out.
Right, exactly.
Kind of connection with each other. And also what role Kondo's ex had in their whole friendship and or connection to the novel. And now we know also why he's interested in writing and why he's interested in reading, you know, literature and stuff, but also is kind of a person filled with, I would say, nostalgia and regret. Someone who feels like that they missed out on some of their, you know, their passions. They lost connection with them, in the same way as that Tachibana is losing a connection with Haruka, Kondo seemingly, when he was younger, began to lose his passion for writing because of his, I believe, because of his lack of connection to his friend. But the other guy, Chihiro, asked him over and over again, like, no, you're still writing. Like, you're still writing. He's like, why do you keep asking that? And what I think is subtly being inferred here, and this is something that I think is really cool, is that while he was the one that ended up writing the novel and stuff, he very much values the opinion of Kondo. He very much wants the approval of Kondo because maybe when he was growing up, he was inspired by Kondo's writing thing. And the fact that Kondo wrote inspired him to write, so that when he ended up writing his book and stuff, he's like, no, I can't go past my inspiration. Then what do I have to move forward to? Like not that that's the negative way of looking at it if you think about it that way, but it does fit because he was insistent upon, like, no, you. He's like, this is the 18th time. It's the 15th time. It's like, wait, you're actually counting? It was 15 times? Well, who cares about him being drunk? That's him being vulnerable, basically being like, he cares that you are interested in this. He loves that, he loves that you, at the very least, share some kind of connection with him.
Right. They have a kindred spirit in this, and even though they've been separated by time and space, that he knows that Kondo still, his passion hasn't died out completely. Right. He might be in a place where he's a lot more timid and stuff because of the things that happened in his life and the things that didn't happen, and because of that, he isn't maybe going after it like wholeheartedly with all the same, reckless passion that he might have when he was younger, to go on a trip to India and all that stuff. But he knows it's still there. He's like, come on, you can't deny it. I know you. I know you. And like that one line where they basically did the whole thing of you didn't go on the trip to India with me, because you got married. That basically, I feel like that was exposition about their relationship. But that little line right there, I feel like, explained Kondo's entire character.
I think it did too.
Because okay, suddenly the feelings of inferiority totally makes sense because his friend went and wrote a thing and he didn't, and the thing that he chose instead of that didn't end up working out, right? And that also shows that yes, the ex-wife won't have any part in the story really, because the fact that he says, no, I haven't seen her. And I talk to her sometimes about Yuto, but the idea that he says he hasn't seen her, even though joint custody, when he takes Yuto home, what does he just like drop him off at the door and then that's it? Or maybe he just meant I haven't seen her in the sense that like we haven't really talked.
There's the possibility that they don't even have joint custody, that it's actually just that the kid just going to one of their houses and stuff like that, and at the exchange there's no real connection there. So that means if he, which I believe I think he has joint custody, but at the exchange he wouldn't necessarily have to interact with her if that was the case.
But the fact that he specifically said I haven't seen her, that seems like a very particular like phrasing, considering that they're at least going into the same proximal area, regularly, for Yuto and all that.
I don't trust really phrasing like that anymore with regards to the fact that we're getting a translated, thing here. So it could be
sure. Well, and even if it wasn't, it could just be him saying, I haven't really seen her, not talking in a literal sense, just him saying, But that his friend's whole character is just amazing.
Is amazing.
Like Johnny.
The dialogue that came from them, and I even bought into the moon, it. It's like, wait, like, is he trying to say something? And you're like starting to chuckle, and then like they're like, that was so cheesy, it's stupid. I was like, wow.
Well, but that's the greatness of it, is that you can see how they think like this is gonna be like this is something profound, and then they say it, and at first you're like, maybe that could be cool, but then you're like, wait a minute, no, that's
stupid.
That's so stupid.
And they're drunk enough to say things like that, but also self-aware enough to go, that was a good one.
Well, and the fact that and that this could just be part of the drunkenness, or the drunkenness just helps bring them back to that place where they were at when they were younger.
Sure.
But the idea that this was a lot of how they were, and it was, you know, coming up with stupid lines and being like, that was lame, like, you know, or like, oh, what are you talking about? This is a masterpiece. Nah, it's all right, you know. That was just I loved it.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is really fun because it's a form of an inside joke, but it's also something that ties directly into the whole writing, you know, side of things, where it's all like, how was that line? And they're like, bro, that line was crap. Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, I know. I just wanted to see.
yeah. I don't know what that's like at all. Nope,
right.
Nope,
so,
not at all.
So this episode, in a lot of ways, I feel like might end up being one of my, not one of my favorites, but one of the episodes that I'm going to, I don't know if I'll rewatch it primarily for that, but one of the ones that I think pairs really well with the episode that really resonated with me, where Haruka had her moment where she gave the delivery of the little cat thing. Because here's the thing. So this story was introduced to us by the premise of the, you know, the old and the young, you know, romance thing going on. And now we're getting something else where it's more actually about how connections can be frayed and strained by circumstance.
Sure, by time.
Well, let's not go specific here. What I'm trying to bring up the point is that if you generalize the connection between Tachibana and Kondo, they have circumstances that are keeping them apart.
Absolutely.
If you know, generalize also Haruka and Tachibana's, it's the same thing.
Sure.
It's a circumstantial things that threaten to keep either the connection from happening or ruin the current connection.
Yeah.
And what I think happened here was Kondo has this added benefit of hindsight and years of experience to where he goes, okay, I already went through that. Like I already went through that multiple times.
Yeah.
You know, the divorce and friends that fall away. But then after 10 years, he meets up with one of them again.
Yep.
And it's like they're right back to where they started.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I think is so wholesome and hopeful and in some ways brutally I'd say tough to swallow here, is that the fact that he bumped into the guy here tonight, you don't know necessarily how intentional that was.
No, we know it was intentional because he said, "I'm meeting someone here."
Oh, okay. So he knew that this was going to happen.
They set this up. Yeah.
Okay, so they set this up. All right. Yeah. So here's the thing that's cool. Then I'll go at it from that angle. So they set this up. All right. So they're going to meet after 10 years.
Right.
That means one of them, at minimum, had to initiate.
Yes.
Here's one of the things that's rough. That's just rough. Most people won't initiate.
Sure. And that's why it took 10 years.
That's why it took 10 years.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Their connection, if they had done this 8 years ago, now would be so much stronger. Like they would have had more times that they spent together. It might not have been as nostalgic for them to reconnect after 10 years instead of reconnecting after 2 years and then having 8 years of intermittent connection over the course of that time. But here's the thing. There's nothing stopping anyone from initiating, right? But why don't we do it? Why don't we actually do that? Like, I'm speaking to anyone out there that's had a connection basically fall by the wayside over many years' time, like at least more than 3 to 5 years, you know? Why is it that the reconnection is not made?
I think the answer to that question is kind of simple. In the same reason,
think it is too.
In the same reason that the reason that the connections getting separated is simple, right? Because it's simply a thing of the amount of time and energy that it takes to maintain the connection gets to be too much, and that while you might be able to choose to do that for the one person, you wouldn't be able to do that for everybody. And and if you were to do that, then you would need to not do certain other things, right? Like if Kondo wanted to maintain that connection and keep it as strong as possible, he probably would have needed to just not get married, and then go on that trip to India with him. In the same way with Haruka and Tachibana, Tachibana would need to not get injured,
or just actually text her. This is actually my point, is that it's simple to the point where it actually is
it's a no excuse kind of thing.
It's a no excuse kind of thing. And this is something that I've gotten on myself about, because I feel like this is something that is something we don't like to talk about as people and stuff like that. Is that the smallest little initiation of connection can mean so much potentially. The value that it could have, like this is the instance here for Haruka. Think about Haruka from this instance. Every little thing that Tachibana would have done maybe prior to this night to establish connection, to build it, even if there was an awareness from Haruka and a maturity of that this isn't going back to the way things were. This isn't going back to the way things were, but this is still a small ounce of what I can give. That's still something. She would begin to shift back to, okay, I'm not going to have things go back to the way things were, but at least there's this. At least there's this. That's good.
And and that's probably the big thing that when I watch this conflict happen between Haruka and Tachibana, the one thing that I wish had been said, but it makes sense that it isn't because they're 17, is that like Tachibana didn't say anything incorrect in the we can't go back to the way things were, because they can't, right? The past is the past. But that doesn't mean that you can't have anything moving forward, right? And that's something that Haruka needs to come to grips with, and Tachibana isn't exactly making it easier for her.
So they both need to fix that. The thing that I'm getting at that's really rough, and I think that this is this is something that people don't like to talk about, is that the reason why relationships and connections like this generally tend to fail is because of circumstantial stuff becoming making the effort and desire to maintain the connection inconvenient. Now, at the basis level of things, I don't think that says actually anything about you or I or anyone as an individual. But that's all it is.
Right.
That's all it is. Especially nowadays.
Right.
And that's actually one of the most beautiful things, is that more recently I've been making little, and I think the show actually helped me in a lot of ways, because when they had that episode with Haruka, I was like, oh my god, this hurts a lot.
Evaluating your entire life and all the connections you've had since you were a kid.
I'm serious. Like there's people I know in life where I had 9 months, maybe 10 months of time spent with them, and it changed my life. Just having just one of the best friends ever. And now 10 years later, I don't even know them anymore. Like I just don't. And there were actions taken on both ends that probably shouldn't have been taken. But I think back on like, why didn't I just text at this time? Why didn't I just shoot a message at this thing here? What effort? Like, what was I scared of? What effort was I not willing to spend to utilize in these things? And it actually kind of terrifies me. I feel like people who resonate with Haruka specifically from this instance, who feel connections slipping away, who feel people in their lives, leaving them like that, need to be more vulnerable, need to be more willing to let other people know how they feel, need to make little engagements, little efforts on a consistent manner. If it's a consistent over an infrequent period of time, that's still consistent. And letting other people know that they're there, that they desire the connection. And the thing is that I think the reason why we don't do that part consistently, because I know that some of us will do the part like inconsistently. We'll be like, here's a here's an initiation here. But I think the second we start to feel that we might end up being rejected, we pull back and don't go after the consistency stuff, because we don't want to have the rejection over and over and over again. And
that
I don't
totally
think
makes sense.
I don't think that's healthy. I understand that. But I think that there's something to be said for actually initiating on a consistent manner when we're not experiencing rejection or
basically taking
direct approval,
believing the best in that sense, where
and this is something that I just wrecks me every time this show brings it up, because if any of you have seen Fox and the Hound, you know how the ending of Fox and the Hound is probably one of the most realistic and the most realistic kind of dark ending of a Disney film. It's basically saying, no, there's no horrible evil thing that happens at the end. There's no deaths.
They don't go back to being.
They don't go back to being friends.
Yeah, no. I mean, they are friends, but it's but they're not. They're not hanging out together.
Yeah, in fact, if anything, I remember being a kid and watching that one, and people were around me being like, "Oh, that's so sweet," and in my head, I could tell that there was something really wrong about the idea of them saying, "We'll always be friends forever." Yeah, forever. And I was like, no, they're not going to be. They're not going to be. I mean, I can imagine that they are, but how? How does that work? And now, in real life, I realize, that happens way more often than we'd like to admit.
Yeah.
So, all that random commentary aside, I think that this show is incredibly intelligent for having this B plot that isn't the romance happening concurrently, that relates to the romance because of its extreme circumstantial stuff going on that keeps it from being as simple as just, I like you too, and there's that.
And the whole thing of the choosing one thing can have, has consequences, and that might cut other things out of your life. The way they went into that with Kondo and his friend is very, very relevant for Tachibana, because I mean, if nothing else, there could be some people that shun her a bit or something because of the fact that, she's in love with this dude that's almost 3 times her age.
Haruka wasn't immediately supportive, or even at the very least,
and that makes,
even asking a question,
and it makes sense for her initial response to be like, wait, what?
Well, I get the initial response to be, wait, what? But then she was so much, I would say, invested in her own emotional compromised situation that she didn't want to be
there wasn't a lot of communication and understanding going on there, and the fact that Haruka started with a not positive response to Kondo is probably one of the things that helped Tachibana not be as open as she could have been.
One of the things that's very real here also, and I would say this is where Tachibana kind of messed up, was she kind of is not being honest with herself here. She said that she wants her to kind of reach into her life. She wants Haruka to ask questions and to kind of, get to know her more, right?
Okay.
That's what she said, basically. She's like, why aren't you initiating, basically, was kind of what she said. And then, Haruka was like, well, you make it so difficult. You make such a problem and stuff. Tachibana, you're not being honest with yourself, because if you go back to all the people that were friends or whatever with her, she doesn't really want to talk about anything. If anything, this is one of the things that
Haruka seemed to be the one exception, but not the
one exception. But yes, it seemed like there was this part of her where she was so absorbed in the I would say in the positive sense, of just this love, and it's what is this? This is something,
right?
But in the same breath, she started to realize maybe that she misses the connection with Haruka. But instead of saying that, saying I miss the connection that we have.
New statements.
I am, just full of all these feelings and stuff, and I don't know how to process them and stuff.
Sure.
She was basically the thing of why didn't you do this?
Right.
Which is basically saying, this is your fault. And then the other person basically responds no, this is your fault.
No, you. Yeah.
No, you. And then the whole thing splits. Right. So Tachibana, if you want to have people ask about those kinds of things, you need to be vulnerable about those kinds of things. And never in the story, outside of Kondo, has she been vulnerable with another person about this whole situation. Like, never. And that's something that I think that would be really cool to see by the end of the show. Is where she asks questions about it. She, gets, vulnerable, I'd say, and risks a little bit of rejection, and people go, "Oh, wow, I've never allow someone else to be an awesome human being for you and kind of be there."
Yeah, because like with Haruka and Tachibana's, friendship, it would be reasonable to assume that Tachibana would just think, but I'm quiet, I'm standoffish, I don't really initiate things with other people that much, and you're the exception. You can break through that anytime you want, right?
Yeah.
That's great, but you need to understand that sometimes the person might feel like something's changed and then suddenly they can't do that, and you need to make sure that you reaffirm that yes, you are a person that is, that I'm okay with doing that.
Yeah. And that generally starts with making I feel statements. This is not me trying to be like a little self-help guru here. I'm just saying what's worked for me. You statements? No. Well, I statements, I feel, yes, there you go.
When someone makes a you statement, the other person can go no you. But if you make an I feel statement, the equivalent of no you is me too.
Yes. And then that's connection.
Yeah.
Like just immediately established. Then they go, oh.
Yeah.
So that's been our TED Talk on relationship communication. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
But this is a good show. This is a really surprisingly good show. Like I did not think this would be the reason why I liked the show.
Yes, yeah, because I had a feeling I was going to love this show, and I mean that's why I chose it. But
I liked the show earlier too.
Right.
But
there was a lot of
this adds so
stuff.
much to it.
Right, and the thing is, it's a lot of stuff that we did not expect. Right, and that's the big thing. Like, because again, Kondo's friend is just absolutely amazing, and I love that they reinforce the idea of Kondo's insecurities along the lines of he, when he says I've done nothing, to Tachibana and all that, and you don't know me, because now that throws a whole new filter on that. It wasn't that he was thinking about his ex-wife and stuff. I mean, he probably was by extension,
sure,
but it was just that he thought about the stuff that he wanted to do and he didn't do.
Yep.
And that's that's one of the things that has probably helped drive me to write more than anything else. Like, there's the fact that I absolutely love it, but there's also just the idea that not wanting to be one of those people, and there are so many out there that want to do it and then don't, and then it becomes this really negative thing for them because it's just this area of where they failed, where they haven't lived up to their own ideals.
Seriously.
But
yeah. So y'all, thank you so much for watching this reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction right now, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length reactions there. And all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us about stories or just hang out in general and chat about whatever.
Yeah.
And if, Jacob's going to promote something here real quick.
Indeed. So, writing this episode, I just talked about writing. My sci-fi novel, Battle Lines, is still available for pre-order. Now, why should you get it during pre-order rather than, just waiting it to come out? Well, the reason is because all the artwork that's done, you get a free high-definition download of the art if you pre-order. So do that. The link is in a pinned comment down below to the Kickstarter. It's only got a couple weeks left, so do that. It's really good.
So if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.